in the era of the Soviet Union, people used to go to Moscow regularly. Thousands of people from all over the Soviet Union went to Moscow to file past Lenin's tomb. And that looked like a religious act, but it wasn't, because it was an atheistic creed. It wasn't a religion. People do similar things in churches. And many people don't do anything and yet claim to be religious. Now, how do we distinguish between people who just say, I'm religious, and people who aren't religious? Well, you've got to look at rituals, and you've got to look at institutions. Religions can't be private things. They've got to be public, something we can observe. And these observable things are described in terms of narratives or myths. Narratives are the stories that inspire the religion. And they have some sort of focus, either divine like God or trans-divine like nirvana in Buddhism. They also are a human phenomenon. Humans are involved in them, and they can be distilled. The stories themselves, the myths, the narratives, have certain meaning, and doctrines boil down the meaning to their basic core. What are they in logical terms? This is what a doctrine does. So religions are complex, but when we see these things brought together, we can say, yes, this is a religion. It's neither too narrow or too broad. This is a practicing religion. Ninian Smart's definition of religion works really well for people who want to study religion, who want to recognize religion in a living situation. But then there are theories about religion, there are discussions about religion, and there are certain things that aren't covered quite by the definition. One of these is the ontological understanding. What is religion essentially? And this is what Paul Tillich was talking about, the American-German theologian Paul Tillich, who wrote extensively by what he called ultimate concern. Tillich argued that religion is what concerns a person ultimately. It's the most important thing in a person's life. It's their faith. This is their religion. Now, that works in many situations. It helps us understand a religious aspect. I don't think it really fits identification of a religion. When we want to look at a religion and study a religion, it doesn't work. But there is an aspect of religion that needs to be taken into account, and this is the faith aspect. And this is what Tillich was getting at. To give an example, I had a neighbour who used to have an antique car. And he used to, every Sunday, bring the car out onto the drive and wash it and clean it and polish it and do all sorts of things with it. And when you talked to him, the only thing he talked about was his car. He never talked about his family or his kids, his wife, anything else. It was always his car. The car was the most important thing in his life. And for Tillich, that would have been his religion, because it's what he built his life around. And for Christians, there's an element of truth to this. What do we build our lives around? Is it Jesus? Is it Christ? Is it God's teaching? Is it God? Or is it something else? Do we say we're Christians and really we're not? When we live our lives, we don't live in a Christian way. Or is Christ central to our life, and do we live as Christians? This is what Tillich's getting at. And this is something which we need to bear in mind, and which sometimes is called implicit or explicit religion. Okay, Paul Tillich was a great American thinker, but he wasn't really Christian in his central core. He questioned biblical Christianity, and he did so largely as an expression of his own experience in the First World War. This brought great doubts into his thinking. And so a lot of people don't like Tillich's ideas. But in terms of the sort of thing Tillich was getting at, there's a Christian thinker, Herman Dooyeweerd, who is a Dutch philosopher, who has summed these things up in a very similar way. And Dooyeweerd talks about religion as the central aspect of the human heart. That what is central to the human heart, this is our religion. And this expresses itself in terms of what he calls ground motives. Ground motives are religious impulses in society that shape cultures. And they shape them through history. And Dooyeweerd traces the way that in Western society, cultures have changed. And as the cultures have changed,